Hello and welcome to the Immigrant Programmers channel. This is Pranav, your co-host, and in this video, we're going to see how Google Firebase almost bankrupted a small company by giving them a bill of 72,000 US dollars in just a few hours when that company had put a daily budget limit of only $7 a day. We'll see what happened, whose mistake it was, what were the workarounds, did the company finally went bankrupt, or did they have to pay the full bill of $72,000 which will bankrupt them, or did Google accept their own mistakes, how are the lawyers involved, what did they play, what role did they play in this whole scenario. We'll see everything in this video, so stay tuned and let's get into how it all started. So going back to November 2019 when this company actually started, they made a website called Announce which had a very good scenario, very good premise to basically announce some things in your local area and other people can listen to those announcements. For example, let's say your pet got lost. You can actually announce in, let's say, Montreal area that my pet got lost in this and this neighborhood, and if anyone else is using the same application, they will see your announcement. So basically, it's a way of announcing anything that's happening in your neighborhood. Well, the trouble started when that company thought about making everything automated. They thought that because of COVID and everything, we will basically use an AI to see some important announcements made by the governments, by the companies, or doctors in your area, in your neighborhood, and to spread the word of what are the latest announcements that might impact you, your neighborhood, etc. And that was a very good initiative by this company because of two reasons. Basically, if no one is using or no one is posting any announcement, this app might be very useless. But in this case, they were actually scraping through the website, seeing the announcements, validating them, and then giving them to the users. So even if no user posts an announcement, they will still be able to see announcements made by others. And this was a very good business idea because that would basically bootstrap their website with some announcement rather than having a blank space whenever you open it. So I think that idea was great. With that, the development of Announce AI began. They wanted to use some cloud functions to basically scrape through the websites and get some relevant information. For that, they started using the Cloud Run service, which was supposed to be free at least at that time. So what happened is they started using Cloud Run to go through the websites and they just wanted to basically test it out, explore it, see if there would be any problems, and they didn't think of any big problem because at least that was supposed to be a free service. And to keep it simple, because there was a very small organization, just a startup with a few developers coding from their own home, and they basically wanted to store everything into the Firebase database just to keep it simple, and they thought storing it in SQL would really be an overkill, and Cloud Run, the function, the service they were using, didn't really have any support for storage. So they went with Google Firebase. So the company made a GCP project and they added a budget of $7 a day, hoping that the worst thing that could happen to them was that the budget would reach because of a bug in their own implementation, and so they were not very stressed about it because they could easily afford about $7 to $10, and that is the budget they put in. So everything went fine on the day of test and they finally deployed it to their production. Now what happened is, within a few minutes of deploying it, they got two back-to-back emails from Google Cloud. Number one email said that they have automatically upgraded their Firebase project into a paid version because, well, they were overusing and they were finally moved on to a paid version, and this happened without any warnings. So that is problem number one. The second problem was that the budget was exceeded. Now, if you have ever used Google Ads or any other service, well, you know that you can put a daily budget and you're not ever supposed to go over that budget. And they got an email that your budget has been exceeded, and even then the billing did not stop, the service did not stop, and that is a huge problem because, well, if you go over budget and they know you are going over budget but they don't stop it, well, that's a big problem. Luckily, the credit card had a limit of $100 a day, so the person thought, well, maybe even if I go over the limit, I don't need to be super stressed because, yeah, it will go to $100. It's much higher than $7, but okay, he will still be able to manage the company. The company at least won't go bankrupt, and they would be able to learn from their mistakes with just paying a little more money than they actually thought they would have to, but that did not stop. Google Cloud actually sent them another email saying that your payment has been stopped. We are stopping all your services because your payment was declined. Your bank did not tell us the reason and they're simply not paying us anymore. And at that time, you might be thinking, well, that's the end of the problem. If bank is not paying them anymore and Google say they are stopping the services, How did they get a bill of $72,000 in just next 2 hours? The person jumped out of his bed, logged into the Google Cloud account, and saw a bill of whopping $5,000. And within a few minutes, in just 2 more minutes, the bill went to 10,000, 15,000, 25,000 in 20 minutes, and in 2 hours the bill was 72,000 US dollars. Well, if that would have happened with me, I don't know what I'll do. And after all of that, the nightmare continued. 3 days before the release, their services were down. Google Cloud shut down their whole infrastructure, their whole website, all the services, because the company was such a small company. They were still bootstrapping themselves and they could not pay the $72,000 bill, and the company was now basically shut down. They didn't have any online presence, and this is a big problem. The morale for a whole team was super low, and the reason is, if you imagine you work for a company, or you are an entrepreneur and starting your own company, you work on something for months and months and months, day and night, and 3 days before the release, you got a bill of $72,000. You don't know how you'll pay it, and your website is now down. No one is able to access your services. That is a big nightmare, a big problem. Finally, after gathering some courage, they actually started investigating the problem, where it finally occurred from. He and his 2 teammates actually sat up the whole night investigating how this problem actually happened, how they got a bill of $72,000 when their budget was only $7 every day. And the next morning, they called many attorneys, many lawyers, trying their best to explain them what happened. And this problem, to be really honest, is actually difficult for many developers to understand, and let alone lawyers who are not technicals, who are not programmers. So they were in a pretty bad situation. So after investigating for a long time, they finally found the loopholes in GCP and the Firebase, and I'm going to tell you each one of them one by one. So the first one is automatic upgradation of the Firebase account from the free to the paid version. Well, whenever something like this happens, you are supposed to send an email or a warning to someone that this is soon going to happen, or you're supposed to basically stop the services and telling them that we have stopped it. If you want to resume continuing our services, you have to move to a paid version, which is pretty basic. It's a pretty understandable concept, and everyone would be okay with that. All the consumers would be okay with that, because now in this case, it is their choice if they want to go paid or if they want to stop using it, because, well, they were just testing it out and they didn't really want to bootstrap a company. The biggest problem is that the billing limits do not exist. Well, at least not for a day. So what happens is, whenever you set a bill or a budget on your Firebase account, it takes 24 hours to reflect. However, on the website, it will show that you have a budget of $7 a day and it will never exceed it. But still, in order for their online system, their payment system, in order for all of those things to integrate, it takes 24 hours. But they don't tell you that. So obviously, the person set the budget, he started the website, and in a few hours, he got a bill of $72,000, which they don't know how they're going to pay. And this is clearly a loophole in GCP, and it's clearly a loophole in Firebase. It's not a customer's problem. It's not a customer's bug. It's not their implementation who caused this. But I understand they could have used some more sophisticated algorithms so that this thing would never happen. Maybe their algorithm or their code was going through the websites more quickly than it is supposed to. It was using more bandwidth than it was supposed to. I accept all of that. But even then, $72,000 is not justificable. If you can't justify that kind of amount. Another big loophole was that even when the credit card company declined payments, they sent an email to the customer that your bank is not paying us. But still, they were supposed to stop at $100. Even when the bank did not pay them, they did not stop. They went on and on and on to $72,000 until the person actually logged into their account and stopped services themselves. It clearly tells us that we can't rely on the Firebase dashboard. It takes more than 24 hours for it to update, and even though they had the bill of $72,000, Firebase dashboard didn't tell them anything. They didn't show them any red flags, and it still showed that everything was under usage levels. And that's a huge problem. This video is already getting very long, so in the next video I'll tell you what happened in the end, how the company survived, Did they really pay the bill, or did the lawyer sort it out? We'll see everything in the next video. Well, if you like this one, hit the like button right now, show some support in the comments, show what you think about them. Do you think Google Cloud should really improve, or do you think it was the company's mistake because they didn't know the fine print that is actually bigger or longer than some books, some novels? They have a very huge documentation, and they might blame the company that, well, we have written everything in the fine print and it's your problem that you did not read it. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. And until next time.